There is a town in the United States where the fire never went out. Not because no one tried, not because no one cared, but because at some point, everyone accepted that it could not be stopped. The flames are not visible at first. There are no towering infernos, no walls of fire licking the sky. The burning happens beneath the ground, quietly, patiently, breathing through cracks in the earth like something alive. Centralia was once an ordinary place, a school, a church, a few streets where people expected to grow old. But when the fire started, it did not destroy the town all at once. It stayed. It waited. It spread slowly, measured not in days, but in decades. And the most disturbing part is not that the ground is still burning. It is that life continued above it for a while. People slept while fire moved beneath their homes. Children went to school while toxic air seeped through the soil. The town did not die in a moment. It was abandoned piece by piece, as if the land itself was asking to be left alone. Centralia is not a ghost town because something terrible happened here once. It is a ghost town because something terrible never stopped happening.
At first, there was no reason to panic. No explosions, no screams, just smoke. The kind that drifts lazily from the ground and disappears before anyone thinks to question it. In the early days, people treated it like a nuisance, an inconvenience that could be cleaned up, contained, forgotten. The fire began underground, in an abandoned coal mine, a place already hidden from daily life, already out of sight and out of mind. That made it easier to ignore. Fires burn out, people told themselves. They always do. But this one did not behave like normal fire. It fed on something deeper. It followed veins of coal stretching beneath the town like a second, mapless city. The heat traveled silently. The smoke found its way through basements, through cracks in sidewalks, through places no one thought to seal. And still, life went on. The church bells rang. The post office stayed open. Children memorized spelling words while carbon monoxide drifted through the air. In hindsight, this is the most unsettling part. Not the evacuation, not the collapse, but the waiting. The years when everyone knew something was wrong, but not wrong enough to leave. Centralia did not fall into chaos. It remained calm, and that calm allowed the fire to grow stronger. By the time officials admitted the truth, that the fire could burn for generations, that it could not be extinguished without destroying the entire town, the ground beneath Centralia had already made its decision. It would not give up what it had taken. And slowly, without sirens or urgency, the town was asked to disappear. Leaving Centralia was never announced as an emergency. There were no alarms telling people to run, no single moment where the town crossed a line and collapsed. Instead, they were meetings, forms, letters written in careful language that avoided panic and promised solutions that never fully arrived. The government did not order people out at first. It offered choices, buyouts, relocation assistance, a way to start over somewhere else. But choices feel different when the ground beneath your house is heating up. Some families left early. They packed quietly, moved away before the fire became a headline. Others stayed. They had mortgages, they had memories, they had reasons to believe this would pass. Because disasters are easier to accept when they end. What made Centralia unbearable was that it did not end. The smoke kept coming, the ground kept cracking, the air kept changing. People began sealing basements, installing vents, sleeping with windows open even in winter. Some learned to recognize the smell of carbon monoxide the way others recognize rain.
By the time evacuation became unavoidable, the town had already thinned out. Streets grew quieter. Houses stood empty longer than they stood occupied. And when residents finally accepted the buyouts, it did not feel like rescue. It felt like surrender. They were not fleeing a moment. They were giving up a place that no longer wanted them. Centralia did not explode. It exhaled. And with each family that left, the fire below gained more silence to burn in.
For those who stayed, the danger was not dramatic. It was constant. The fire did not roar. It whispered. It warmed the ground in places it should have been cold. It sent steam rising through cracks in the pavement, like the town itself was breathing. Toxic gases moved invisibly, without warning signs or borders. One day a road would be safe. The next, it would collapse without ceremony. Sinkholes opened where children once played. Not suddenly, not violently, just enough to remind everyone that the earth below was unstable. Living in Centralia meant learning to trust nothing beneath your feet. People learned where to walk, where not to stand, which spots stayed warm even in snow. There were stories of pets refusing to cross certain yards, of grass staying green in winter, of snow melting in strange patterns. These were not legends. They were daily observations. And yet, normal life continued for as long as it could. Mail was delivered. Schools operated until they didn't. Church services were held above a fire that no prayer addressed directly. This was not denial. It was endurance. The human ability to adapt to danger when danger becomes routine. By the time the outside world began calling Centralia cursed or abandoned, the people who lived there had already been negotiating with the fire for years. Not fighting it, not winning, just surviving above it, day after day, until survival itself became unreasonable.
When the fire could no longer be ignored and relocation was no longer optional, the final step was not dramatic. It was administrative. Centralia was not destroyed. It was rewritten. On paper, the town stopped existing. Street names were removed, zip codes were revoked, postal routes were ended. The government did what governments do best when problems cannot be solved. It simplified them by erasing them. The remaining residents were offered final buyouts, and most accepted, not because they wanted to leave, but because staying no longer made sense when your home no longer officially existed. A town does not die when the last person leaves. It dies when the world stops acknowledging it. Centralia reached that point quietly. There were no barricades, no announcements, just a gradual disappearance from maps and records, as if the place itself had been a clerical error. And yet, the fire continued. It burned beneath streets that no longer had names, under houses that no longer had addresses. The contradiction was impossible to ignore. A town erased by policy, but still alive beneath the surface. This was not abandonment caused by chaos. It was abandonment carried out carefully, legally, cleanly. And that is what makes it unsettling. The fire was treated as a natural problem. The people became paperwork. And once the paperwork was complete, the town was allowed to vanish.
Today, Centralia is quiet. Not the peaceful quiet of rest, but the hollow quiet of something unfinished. The roads lead nowhere. The buildings are gone or collapsing. The land looks empty unless you know where to look. Then you see it. Steam rising from cracks in the earth. Snow melting in strange shapes. Smoke drifting without wind. The fire is still there. It will likely remain for decades, maybe centuries,
doing what it has always done, burning without purpose, without witnesses. This is the final discomfort Centralia leaves behind. Not that it was destroyed, but that it was deemed acceptable to leave burning. Some disasters demand action. Others are simply waited out, even when waiting means leaving a place to die slowly. Centralia teaches a quiet lesson, that society can adapt not only to danger, but to abandonment. That a town can be sacrificed without violence, without outrage, without anyone truly being blamed. The fire did not chase people away. They walked away themselves, one decision at a time. And now, the town remains as proof, not of failure, but of acceptance. The ground still burns, and above it, there is nothing left to argue with it.